Let's start the review of Vulcan, Gabriel Summers, with the first issue of X-Men, Deadly Genesis. The narrative begins with Cyclops and Beast expressing their discomfort about the Sentinels guarding the Institute. Beast is also curious about the destination of the energy from the mutants who lost their powers following Wanda's actions on M-Day. In the depths of space, encased within a rocky asteroid, Vulcan emerges with a burst of fiery energy. He comes across a deceased astronaut and utilizes his abilities to unravel the mysteries of the astronaut's death. Vulcan then discovers an unoccupied space shuttle and is shocked to realize he has reawakened in the 21st century. Meanwhile, at the mansion, Emma Frost, with the lackluster help of Kitty Pryde, employs Cerebra to search for the absent Professor Xavier. Out of nowhere, Emma detects an Omega-level mutant signal alongside a NASA space shuttle re-entering Earth's atmosphere. Cyclops, Marvel Girl aka Rachel Summers, and Wolverine navigate the X-Jet to the shuttle's crash site in upstate New York. Simultaneously, Shadowcat is haunted by terrifying visions through enigmatic apparitions. A similar ordeal befalls Nightcrawler when he is ambushed by armed vigilantes in the forest. The men attempt to execute him, labeling him a monster, which leads Nightcrawler to fail at teleporting away as he seeks to grasp the situation. Other members of the X-Men encounter similarly harrowing experiences. They are shocked to find the space shuttle lodged in an earthen formation shaped like a fist. Marvel Girl senses a weak trace of Jean Grey and is led by her spectral figure into a shadowy cave. Wolverine and Cyclops follow her, only to discover Rachel held captive in Vulcan's clutches. With his psionic abilities, Vulcan quickly overwhelms Wolverine and flings him towards Cyclops. Cyclops attempts to strike Vulcan with his optic blast, but much like Vulcan did during his earlier training with the X-Men, he effortlessly redirects the attack back at Cyclops and Wolverine. Then, revealing his prior acquaintance with Cyclops, Vulcan drags Scott and Rachel from the cave. On Muir Island, Banshee is shocked by a vision of the late Dr. MacTaggert outside her office window. He tracks her to a secluded shack, where he uncovers a computer file that exposes Moira's deep-seated resentment towards Charles Xavier. Now we move to Vulcan moments, where it becomes more clear that he is definitely an Omega level, possibly beyond Omega level mutant. While a sonic scream might seem simplistic, Banshee was among the most powerful mutants in the Marvel Universe. His sonic abilities ranged from flight through sound propulsion to disintegrating objects with intense vibrations, making his scream a potential asset against Vulcan according to the X-Men. However, the X-Men were in for a rude awakening when they discovered Vulcan could also manipulate sound waves. Though not the best first impression, Vulcan's telepathic ease in dispatching Banshee and hundreds of innocent civilians using the X-Men's Blackbird established him as a formidable adversary. Vulcan's fiery murder of Banshee sent shockwaves throughout the X-Men team. Vulcan then invasively used Marvel Girl's psychic abilities for his own purposes, informing Scott of his necessity for her. In a later scene, Vulcan reveals to Cyclops that they are brothers, and Cyclops receives this news in utter disbelief. At the same time, upon discovering Vulcan's role in the deaths of several civilians aboard an aircraft, the Office of National Emergency dispatches a Sentinel to eliminate him, Cyclops, and Rachel. The Sentinel arrives, demanding their immediate surrender. As Vulcan fires an energy blast at the Sentinel, it counters with a pulsar blast, which Vulcan effortlessly redirects. Vulcan then sabotages the Sentinel's systems, causing its defensive shields to fail. Deprived of power, the Sentinel tumbles from the sky and crashes. Scott is outraged by Vulcan's actions, especially after a man emerges from the downed Sentinel and points a weapon at Vulcan, who promptly disintegrates him. Scott lunges at Vulcan, only to be caught mid-leap as Vulcan reveals he was the one who stripped Cyclops and Marvel Girl of their powers. Later that night on the island of Genosha, Vulcan confronts Cyclops and Professor X, insisting that Professor X reveal to Cyclops that he, Vulcan, is Cyclops' brother. Meanwhile, the X-Men attempt a covert assault on Vulcan with limited success. Realizing the presence of the X-Men, Vulcan questions the Professor about whether he should retaliate. Professor X responds that they are not to blame. Wolverine, Emma Frost, and Nightcrawler then arrive. As Wolverine lunges towards Vulcan, he is swiftly subdued by Vulcan, along with Nightcrawler using a potent energy blast. As more X-Men arrive at the location, Vulcan warns them to keep their distance, or he will harm Professor X. At Professor X's request, we see Marvel Girl uncover and share Scott's memories from Krakoa, which confirms that Vulcan is indeed Scott's brother. We also discover that Darwin's mutant ability, Darwin, a former X-Men member, enabled him to transform into pure energy, which then merged with Vulcan. It was this bond with Darwin that sustained Vulcan's life during his time encased in a rock in space. Additionally, Vulcan had absorbed the mutant powers of Petra and Sway. During Rachel's attempt to awaken Vulcan, she ends up separating another consciousness residing within him, identifying a potential vulnerability in Vulcan. This move by Rachel temporarily weakens him. Wolverine's response is to attack Vulcan while he's vulnerable, but Vulcan counters with another energy blast. Wolverine recovers swiftly. Cyclops regains his powers and tries to strike Vulcan, but Vulcan effortlessly deflects the attack. Meanwhile, Wolverine manages a sneak attack from behind, and Colossus lands a strong uppercut. Kitty Pryde then engages by phasing through Vulcan, which interferes with his energy-based abilities. Aggravated and enraged, Vulcan unleashes an energy blast at the X-Men and escapes into space seeking revenge on Ken, the one who killed his mother.